Yeah. All right. So welcome everybody. Ali and I are super excited to be here. We have an incredible mix of women with us today. We have current 10th House members. We have women who have just joined who are going to be starting our cohort on CPG with us at the end of the month. And then we have women who are just hearing about us for the first time and keen to learn a little bit more. So we have decided to create a space in which you guys are able to, everyone submitted questions. I'd highly recommend putting Ali and I into speaker view if you guys can do that as well, just so that there's not too much going on with all the other faces. But you guys submitted a huge amount of questions. It was really amazing to see that a lot of you actually have the same questions. So what we've done is we've pulled together about 15 questions from some of you, a great range to talk about what it means to be part of the community, what it entails, what engagement's like, are you going to meet people in other cities, about fundraising, about all the elements that you guys have asked. And so if there's anything pressing at the end that we didn't cover, Elizabeth and Christia from our team are here to support so that we can hopefully get to a whole bunch of questions. So to kick things off, for those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Carly. I head community here at the 10th House and Female Founder Collective. And Ali, if you want to do a quick introduction.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Ali Wyatt. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Female Founder Collective and many startups and building teams, building cultures, building revenue. So really excited to be here and always love hearing about your businesses. So keep sending them in the chat. It's fun to read.
Yeah. And just as a quick overview from my side, I was a founder in my past life as well. I had my own business in 2010. I sold it in 2012. I left in 2017 with a high need for a community like this. I had my best friend and my roommate, my business partner as, my lifeline and sisterhood of some sort. And there was no place for us to go for support. So I have a passion to helping you guys and to supporting this community because it was something I desperately needed. I don't think the business would have been where it is if I don't think things would have changed, but my dynamic as a founder and my relationships as a founder would have had way more support and probably would have healed a little bit faster if I had other women to talk to about it. So that's where we are, and we're going to kick things off. So the first question we have from Kayla is about in-person connections and networking opportunities. So I will take this one because this falls within, the community world. We are a tiny but mighty team here at the 10th House and FFC. And we have members in almost what feels like almost every single city in this country, in addition to a few cities overseas. So we don't really have the bandwidth to host events for every city all the time. And so what we've created is a program called City Sessions, and City Sessions leans into our current members to host in-person events and to gather in your hometown, because I truly believe community starts in your home. And if you don't have women to go on a walk with, to have a phone call with, to have someone in person to talk to, then, we can help provide that for you. And so that community can be 2 people, and then it can be 4 people. And suddenly you're sitting around a table or at an event that has 40 women. So community truly starts at home. And so this program allows women in the community in the 10th House to stand up, to host events. And by this, we define them as walks along the West Side Highway, picnics in the park. They can be gatherings around your office table. They do not need to be these fully produced events, because at the end of the day, the magic really happens when you're sitting around a table and you're having in-person conversations. You're getting into your feelings, the things you're scared about, the things you're excited about, the challenges that are coming and approaching you at all angles, and having women to talk to about this in person. So City Sessions are open to the public. Elizabeth can probably drop this in the chat. We have a place on our website where you can see City Sessions happening, but the cadence of them is definitely dependent on where the cities are and how members are hosting them. But as a non-member, you are more than welcome to join. And we encourage you to bring other female founders to join as well. And then We also host events in our larger contingency of cities like New York, Miami, and Los Angeles. Ali and Rebecca host these events with really incredible funders and founders and women who are super inspirational. And so those are events that we'll be having bi-monthly, bi-weekly. I can never remember if it's every other month in New York and LA. And so that is also on our master calendar that you guys can attend. 10th house members get those for free, and they are ticketed to non-members. Okay, anything else to add? I think that covered it, Ali. All right, so next up we have a question from Nikki. And this will go to Ali, who is your membership ideal for? What can I expect to learn, and will there be actionable takeaways?
So in terms of who it's ideal for, I'm going to talk about stage of company first. I think from a stage perspective, it's early stage, right? So maybe you've had your business for a year, 2 years, even 3 years, even 5 years. But really what unites you is that you're still a startup, right? You maybe have one person, you might be the only person in your company, and you're thinking about, do I want to bring on a COO? Do I want to bring on a CEO? And replace myself and act more as sort of a creative director role? Or like, do I even want to just bring on like an assistant, right? And start to take the business to the next level. You're looking to invest in the business to have a step change from where you are today. Maybe you are launching a new product line or a new service, and you want to get ideas and bounce and sort of sounding boards around, is my product or service the right price point? Is it packaged the right way? Am I bringing it to market in the right way? And so this is a really great way to sort of bounce ideas off of other founders that have maybe been through something similar. In terms of the type of business, so what we've changed a lot this year, just based off of the feedback that we've received in the community itself, and just seeing the behaviors, frankly, of everybody that is talking on our digital channels each day, we've seen that more specificity helps. And what I mean by that is industry is super helpful, right? So we've already, sort of identify that you're earlier stage, or like you're sort of in that step change process in your business and looking to invest. So from a stage perspective, that's where you are. But industry is really important, right? Because if you're a service-based business and your biggest pain points are, how do I package? How do I price? How do I think about what does my tech stack look like? It's going to be entirely different than somebody who's in consumer products. So we're going to be doing 6 cohorts this year, and those cohorts are the rest of the year we're going to be sort of revealing shortly. But the first one we're going out with are consumer products. And that way you're able to identify common vendors, or like the good vendors versus the bad vendors, or co-packers, or who can help you with packaging issues, or how do you think about funding your business, right? Because for a consumer business, you have inventory. For a consumer business, there's not a lot of VC funding that's readily available right now. So the best places to go are really other founders to understand, how did they fund their business? Maybe they have been bootstrapping, but they had a hole, and so they had a debt facility that they were able to get. Sharing these types of really specific information with your fellow founders is what's going to help you with the business. And then in order to answer the question around, are there actionable takeaways and things that you'll learn, we also have an education component to what we do as well. And by being industry specific, we're actually able to bring in, again, experts that can drill down on very pinpointed questions around your industry and expertise that you need around your industry as well. And they'll actually come in and they'll be teaching workshops in addition to having these wonderful Q&A opportunities, from a funding perspective, or even from a connections, finding advisors, people that can help you level up your business. I think there is nothing better than having exposure to these people. And I've seen that the community members that participate and engage in our workshops and our Q&As that we have with experts get so much out of it, because then they make that connection with that expert. Sometimes that expert becomes an advisor in their business, or they're unofficially consulting them on the side. And when they have certain questions, they're able to reach out to that person. That person gets skin in the game in their particular business. So it's really about what you put into it. But we do have actionable takeaways. We are focusing on industry, and it is earlier stage businesses, in short.
Yes, Ali covered all of that. If you guys have any additional questions, for some reason, it's not letting me post anything in the chat, but also
Me
to tap
neither.
on.
I tried. It will only let me talk to our AI, so or respond directly to you all.
Here we are. Here we are. But we also have a platform called The North, which is a great way to, get in touch with these advisors, spend time with them. I sort of find it in a way of like you're paying to get to the front of the line. You don't have to navigate. You don't have to search through LinkedIn, ask for introductions. Elizabeth just popped it in the chat. So it's another great opportunity. It's another one of our amazing companies in our ecosystem. So Monty asked, how can this help my business? And I think that's a really great question. I also want to reiterate, being part of a community takes time and it takes commitment. It's not a huge amount of time and it's not a huge amount of commitment, but what you put in, you will get out of it. And so asking something like, how can this help my community? How can this help my business is really dependent on what you're looking for. And if you're going to make the time to participate, because it can help a ton. So the way we design this community is, you have events and programming that Avery, who is our master of head of programming, finds and recruits all these amazing women to come speak to you. And there's LinkedIn Lives, there's workshops, there's Q&As, and there's tons of education and old downloads and replays that you can go watch. You can search by topic, you can search by, keyword, Amazon. You can see all these different conversations, recordings of past events that we've hosted that talk about, selling on Amazon, growing on Amazon, and every way it can support. And then you have the community, which is a place to engage, ask questions, share resources, share community resources. And we also have what we call community programming, which is a lot more dynamic discussions that we have community conversations over, as though you're sitting around a table and you're discussing topics. You're asking questions with one another, and it's a lot more involved in terms of your time. So if you're able to make the time for one or both of these pathways, it's also designed because we all learn differently. I learn by talking, and I've come to learn this. I'm not very good at watching content and taking information in, let alone finding time to watch replays. Yet I have women in the community I never hear from because they're constantly just watching the replays and they live in the education space, and that's how they learn, which is fantastic. We also have our emails, newsletters, which come from FFC. And then for being part of the community, we have our Sunday Digest that comes out every Sunday at 11 a.m. to our members that recaps everything coming up in the coming weeks to participate in. So it's a long-winded answer, but there's so much in this community in terms of downloads, sharing knowledge, resources, networking, and education that can totally help your business when you know what you want to focus on. So my recommendation is if you chunk it out and say in the next 3 months, let's say for CPG, I'm looking to find a new co-packer, redesign my packaging, and boost my engagement on social, then you can focus on sourcing those by asking who is available, who knows any recommendations of great co-packers in these areas. I'm looking for a designer. And I'm going to pause really fast to also just say what makes this community really unique is you have product-based businesses and you have service-based businesses. And so for product-based businesses, for this example, when you're looking for a designer to help you redesign something, instead of you going out to your wider network, instead of you Googling, instead of you asking your investors, you have this space in which you can say, I'm looking for a designer to redesign my my journal company's new packaging and redesign. And you will get a plethora of recommendations that women have worked with, that are vetted, that are sourced, and also women in the community who do this. And so you have this really unique space where instead of wasting your time going out and sourcing all of these things alone, your first step is to ask the community, because these have been vetted. People have worked with these incredible women, and are happy to make introductions. And for those women who do have service-based businesses, they're willing to give you 20 minutes of their time to help you navigate everything. And if you like them, you guys can work together. But if not, you don't have to Google and search for these things on TikTok, Instagram, via email, and via other capacities. So there is so much in here for it to help your business. You just have to be willing to look for it and ask the questions, right? And it's just a simple reminder. If you never ask, no one knows that you're looking for help. And that simple reminder that you never know who knows who, right? I use this example, but there was a woman who was trying to get to Serena Williams' investment fund and was just searching and couldn't, no introductions that she was making on LinkedIn. She was doing cold outreach. And she posted it in the community, and within 20 minutes, she had an email to Serena's partner to get her in the door. So it never hurts to ask. Don't be shy. All of these tools have been built and designed and thoughtfully curated to help your business. But it's not just going to help your business if you don't use them. So that's my long-winded question, response. Next up, we have Giovanna, who is looking for funding, VC, angel investors, and doesn't really know where to start.
So I'll take that one. The great news is we have an incredible network between Rebecca and I and the various members of our team and the speakers that have participated in our events in the past, of investors, both venture capitalists as well as angel investors. One of the challenges that we've had is that, again, we've had all different industries. And depending on what kind of fund you have or what kind of investor you are interested in different types of businesses. So it's hard to sort of help people be, again, specific when we have so many different industries within FFC. So what we're doing this year to help with that is that we're going to be introducing a lot more formalized founder funder events. You've seen some of those pop up already in January, where we have BBG Ventures, we have Able Partners happening in New York, and then we have founders that have exited down in Miami, where there are, we have Divya Gugnani, who has exited 3 businesses. She's part of Sephora Accelerate. She currently has a consumer business, and she has her own family fund. So she's an angel investor. Nancy Twine, who exited Briogeo. We're bringing in the top of the top access, so that you all are going to be able to connect with those people either in person or via virtual events. Now, I've actually seen in the past, I've had founders be like, I didn't connect with investors in the 10th house. To be totally honest, you have to take the time again to participate in those events, because we can't do one-to-one introductions. We do that on the North for this reason, but we can't do one-to-one introductions because these people are so busy, and they are they're getting thousands of emails from founders a week. So the fact that they've dedicated this time to us, and they are specifically looking at 10th house members and under a different light, is because they are associated with us. But we are doing very specific events, the founders and funders events. We're also going to be introducing in March at our Female Founders Day, we have a pitch event that is the first of its kind, where we're going to actually have a room full of angel investors, venture investors from all different strategies that are going to be listening to finalist pitches. But even if you aren't one of the finalists, you're actually going to have the opportunity to have your business put in front of them from a deck perspective. So it's a great opportunity to come, to mingle, to be in front of investors. And then throughout the year, almost every month, we're going to have something in New York and LA as like our initial hub markets, to be able to come and actually meet these individuals. And in LA, we'll actually have some investors coming in from San Francisco as well, if that's more of the market that you're looking to sort of sweep.
Sorry, I had to close the door. Brian, as are we. I think these networking events, we started the 10th house. FFC has been around for about 5 years now already, but the 10th house started in early 2021. And at that point, it was still kind of questionable of live events and getting people together in real life. And so it's been really amazing. Just also every month that passes, there's more and more excitement to get people together. And I think it's also this dynamic of you want this online community, but at the same time, you want an offline community for you to have. And so it's a very important piece of our growth and for creating opportunities for you guys to get off the computer and talk to people as well, because so much comes from those in-person relationships that just sometimes don't translate as meaningful as they do online. So we are too. The next question is from Amanda. How can I connect with more people in the same industry? Amazing question. And this goes back to what Ali was talking about at the top of the call and how we've made these changes. And, they're subtle changes, but I think they're very important. And the best way to look at it is in the community, we have spaces. And I actually think I'm going to just show you guys what I'm talking about so that you have a visual.
Yeah, I was going to say, it'd be great to show you guys inside if you're not currently members so that you can see.
So we use Slack. Wow, we don't use Slack. We use Circle, which is if Slack and Yelp had a baby. For those of you who are in other communities, you get this amazing opportunity to have all of these other communities that you're part of on the left side. I also believe women are always part of 2 to 3 communities. There's so many learnings that we all have as community builders. So I'm huge on feedback. If there's things other communities are doing that you love, there's things in the community that you don't like. We have this joke that we built this house, but you're the ones living in it. And so we don't know if a toilet is broken or if a space isn't working. So feedback for me makes it extra fun because the changes that we can make are really fast. But as you can see, we have an industry center space. And so the consumer product space, ideally, we broke it down by business services, consumer products, customer and consumer experience, which is generally like a yoga studio or a brick and mortar. That was not supposed to go there, apologies. And then tech. And so over time, these will become more defined industries, but there are spaces within here that you are designed to have really, really in-depth conversations. And when we launched, it was very much this general experience of, I'm a founder, let's all discuss things. But we realized there was so much being lost along the way, and having a dedicated space to host these conversations and these discussions to really share the ins and outs of the really, really detailed things you're navigating are just very different between a business owner of a service-based business and a business owner of someone who's building a product-based business like a food and beverage or a beauty or even a pet supply. And so you'll have these specific spaces within the community to really, really go into the weeds with people who are sharing the same challenges, opportunities, trials and tribulations, and everything that comes with it, who can really feel, all the emotions that go with the ups and downs of being a founder. In addition, we have places for you to host huddles, which are dynamic. These are strictly networking events. And these are going to be created so that you can network further with, if you are a beauty founder, solely beauty products, founders, food and beverage, and really get into the nitty gritty among all of the women who are encompassing in the consumer product space, but really network with them. And then the community conversations, what I mentioned earlier, these are dynamic discussions. These are sitting around a table so that you can have the conversations with the women who are sort of navigating all the different things. And these conversations can be anything you want to discuss. The beautiful thing about this is kind of the center of where many of the service providers can also come in and share their insights. And other women who are building in other industries could also share their insights if it's complementary to the conversation. So, I always think about, if you put 5 women on a stage and you gave 5 founders on the stage, you gave them the same issue to solve, you would have 5 different ways of getting to the solution. And so understanding other founders' perspectives and strategy of how to solve a problem actually helps you take your blinders off and think through other ways of getting there. Because I think so much of the time you're stuck in your own weeds. Sometimes when you come up for air, you're like, whoa, I could have gone from A to B, saving $10,000 in a 2 month shorter period. So these conversations are also designed to help you think through other ways of problem solving and finding inspiration through other members and other founders. Laura asks how to make it from bootstrapping to financial success. I think these kind of conversations are really interesting because these are topics that Avery hosts and puts together as programming. So I pulled this question because these are the type of things where we have downloads, we have resources, you can be in the community, you can ask specific questions. Women have people you can speak to. There are people in the community that you can hire. But the design of the community is to help educate you to get there. And then, I'm sure Allie has some opinions on that as well, specifically.
Yeah, I think with bootstrapping, that's particularly helpful to have a community around, right? Because unlike venture capital fundraising and funding, venture capital, there's a very specific process, right? You go out, you have your Series A, your Series B, or your seed. You have specific investors. There are term sheets. So there's a lot more sort of process around it that is uniform across the board, right? Whereas when it comes to bootstrapping, everybody bootstraps differently. And so the learning from as many possible people is so important so that you can get tips of like, oh, okay, at this point in time, they did this with their inventory, or they increased the prices on their services, or they were able to, if you're a SaaS platform, they weren't able to get a contract in time to cover the operating expenses. So they worked with this third-party vendor that was able to buy the contract ahead of time so you could pay for the execution of that contract ahead of time, knowing that you wouldn't be paid for 90 days, right? So I think there's all of these interesting questions that you all can throw out to the group, and the group can really help you workshop around. And it's the more experiences, particularly with bootstrapping, you can learn from, the better.
Yeah, and just to add
I
on
would
to that,
say, as a quick final note, sorry, Carly, is that I would say probably 80% or even more of our founders have bootstrapped. So you are not alone by any means if that's your preferred method of funding or your sort of only choice of funding.
yeah, and we have some really amazing past conversations with speakers such as Cassandra from Kitsch, Prudence from, or I just totally blanked on her business's name, Millsap, who worked, specifically with Amazon to grow a business. And, one thing Allie mentioned that I think is really important is the community thrives on reciprocity. So the more you're giving to other members, the more other members will give back to you. And the more engaged and supportive you are, the more women are willing to help when you need it. And so it's this really, really magical space. And I think, in the context of everything, I don't believe our community is spammy. And I'm a very, very big regulator on soliciting your business. I think it's very important to highlight your specialties and share them with the community. But if you are in there and you are just there directly to sell and find clients, that's when I come in and we have a conversation, because that's not what this community is for. And the minute that starts to lose control, the entire community changes. And this sort of leads me to a question that Gurveen submitted asking about what the culture is, which I think is a really, really great question. Our culture is supportive. And I think that's a really general word. But it's a place to share your wins. It's a place to share your accolades. but it's not a place where women come in just screaming from the rooftops about their lists they got on, the awards they got, and then you never hear from them again. People are here because they want to be here, and women are here because they want to support one another and they need the support themselves. And that intention drives the entire culture and area of how women process one another's relationships, how they're making introductions, and how they're supporting one another. And I think it's very special. And I have been in communities for a very long time. I call myself kind of a community slut. Like, I'm always like checking out all these different communities. I want to know how they're being built. And you see that, like, the minute you let it run wild of solicitation and intention of really just being there to find clients or just to boast about current wins, it changes the dynamic. And I feel very grateful that we've had members and women who have been here who are here because they really truly want to be, and the authenticity is what drives the conversations and drives the support for one another. And I think it's just really special. So I get really emotional over it, and I'm just so grateful for all of our members. But that culture is there, and it's authentic, and it's supportive, and it's encouraging, and it's very real. And the conversations are not shaded in boasting about certain elements of the business. I think it's very important to share your wins, especially the tiny ones, because with every tiny step you get to the big ones. But that's not lost on all of the moments that have to happen in between.
And as a quick side note about sharing, we also have a place, we have tons of form submissions that I think sometimes get lost. But if you're fundraising, if you just launched a product, if you were just featured in the news, we want to know about that. So we can also shout from the rooftops of all of our channels that go out to a much wider audience. And there's even opportunities where sometimes we actually are in conversations with major media companies who want to know about amazing stories of founders who have had successes or who have had a lot of tribulations in their journey. And we like to hear your stories and get as deep as possible on those so that we can field those over to outlets that can tell it to a huge audience, right? So the more you share with us and the more you share with the community, the easier it makes it for us to support your business's growth.
And also on social, Kimber, who leads our social, she is a genius and we love her. But she was always thinking through all these different elements of how she can highlight your fundraisers, your product launches, just profiles on what you're each building, because it's great in our insular community of the 10th house, but we also want to take advantage and share your needs on our wider social on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. And one thing to note too is we also have a job board. So if you are hiring for work, we have a job board for female founders. You do not need to be a member to post it, but we do amplify those to help support finding you top tier talent through our network, through our wider FFC community as well. So Elizabeth can drop that in the chat because I can't chat for some reason. But I always encourage you, hold that, bookmark that. Anytime you guys are hiring, post it in there, because Kimber highlights that on social. We have it in our newsletters, and we try to spread it as wide as possible. So the next question from Andrea. And this one's for you, Allie. I own multiple businesses, so the application is confusing. How to apply then, also is exact offering and what it comes with.
So I would say that if you have multiple businesses, like this is going to be even more helpful for you. I would just apply with one business because we don't right now have the functionality from a technical perspective to be able to support multiple sort of thread applications. But once you're in, you can participate in anything that is relevant for you. In terms of what cohort you should join, I would honestly join the cohort of the business that you have the most sort of pertinent issues on. So, for example, if you have, I was speaking to somebody last week and they have multiple businesses, and a business that she is launching and taking to market right now is in consumer products. And I was like, well, then it's perfect for you to join right now because you're going to want to go along this journey with the consumer products founders, but you can be part of multiple spaces. You just have to notify Carly or myself or anybody, frankly, that works on the 10th house, and we can make sure that you're participating in the tech cohort or the women's health cohort or the consumer products cohort or the service business cohort, to ensure that we're hitting off on all of the sort of needs in the places where you want to be.
Perfect. Thank you. Johnson asks, what topics are discussed in the cohort? I think we covered this, but again, I want to reiterate that you as members curate the content and the programming that Avery and I put together. When I see consistent questions about a certain topic, how to sell or grow your business on a marketplace, how to transition from having a co-founder to getting rid of your co-founder, when there's enough conversations and when things are being discussed, I share this with Avery, and then Avery goes out and finds someone who can come in, specialist, an entrepreneur, founder who had an experience relative to that content, to come in and talk about it. So it's a very 360 approach that we're always doing, but it's always being directed by the conversations you're having. This also goes to show with the community conversations, because you guys are defining what those discussions are. But it's a really, really special place because we're taking our lead from what you guys are discussing. And that helps us serve you better because, again, this is a community built by founders for founders, and you are those founders. So the conversations, range when it's getting closer to July, August, there's a lot of Black Friday prep talking, Cyber Monday, how to prepare for that. What are things you can do to start kicking off so that when it does come holiday season, you're prepared, your customers are prepared, your wholesale, your operations, your shipping, your warehouse, all of that kind of stuff. So it's really amazing. But simply it's defined by what you guys are talking about. And as markets change, what are some things that you can do to prepare? We had a lot of content when all of that happened, and, pulling in resources and women coming in to discuss with our members on best ways to navigate if you were an SVB member, Wells Fargo, and all of that. So we're on the brink of sort of keeping current affairs and current events available so that we can pull in relative and relevant conversations. But in the midst of everything, you guys are defining what you want to talk about. Noelle asked where to get started, and I think that is a great question. So if you are keen to join and you're not a member yet, Elizabeth or Christia will drop in the chat the website for you to apply. So that's one place to start. Our membership starts at $68 a month or $619 for the year, both of which are annual commitments. Application may feel daunting, but it's actually quite short. And this is really just so that we can have all of the necessary data so that we can curate content for you guys. We can curate events. If we're doing a tech event in San Francisco, then we know we can kind of curate that down to the women who are part of the technology cohort and live in the Bay Area. So that information is really important for us to have. And then once you're inside, you will get an onboarding email just to preparing you. And based on, I forgot who asked this before, and ready. Once we have the cohort closed, there'll be an orientation, which you will have that date in advance from the moment that you apply. Orientation is hosted by Elizabeth, Rebecca, Ali, Avery, and myself. We walk you through all of the programming, all of the best practices, how to utilize the community, and really set you up for success so that when you arrive in the community, you can kind of hit the ground running. You will get access to the community and to our platform once the cohort begins. Just sort of keeps everything cohesive. And when we first launched, we had members just applying and arriving. And we realized this is sort of like when you arrive at a party and everyone's kind of hit the food, everyone's been drinking a little bit, the dance floor is really going off, and you're just kind of like, where do I go? Where do I start? And so we reeled it in. We moved to this cohort model so that we allowed you to kind of arrive with the group prepared and ready to go. And then Allie, this is a question for you from Molly. Would this community have the technical expertise to support and accelerate my growth as a business owner?
I don't know if I know what that means. It depends on where you are. I think from a stage perspective, you know, if you are a business, for example, that is $50 million plus or $100 million plus, or you're looking to um you're looking to sell your business and you are around that revenue range. I think for the more mature businesses, this we do have the technical expertise, to be quite honest, but we're not going to be programming to that technical expertise. And so you might find yourself not getting the resources you need as a much more mature business owner. We actually will share more about this soon. We're going to be launching a membership tier that is specifically for businesses that have been around for 10 to, or it doesn't actually matter how much time. It's going to be more based off of revenue and size of business. But we're going to be focusing on that so that we are bringing more bankers in or private equity or attorneys that can speak to things like thinking about exiting or sort of these later stage equity rounds than what you're thinking about from a startup capacity. But most likely, if you are in the stage that I referenced at the beginning, which is early, we have all the technical expertise that you're going to need. And if we don't have somebody that is very specific to a question that you have, then we go out to our network and try to find somebody that has been vetted, that we have heard from multiple people is great at what they do and is reliable and credible.
Yep. So we have about 10 minutes left, and I can continue to go through some of these questions that that have been submitted. But if any of you here have questions, would love to take advantage of real-time Q&A. If you can drop them in the chat, this could be anything at all. We would love to answer while we have you. I see a lot of questions again going through this about specific cities. Toronto, Philly, Seattle. Yes. I mean, the question, we actually encouraged a new program supporting the city sessions earlier at the end of last year, where we have chapter leads. So we have about 28 cities in which women have stood up to commit to throwing at least one event per quarter in those cities. Some cities have 9 chapter leads, which is fantastic. Some have 1. So it's the beginning of the movement on this. Philly actually had their first city session at the end of last year. And I think we had about 35 to 40 women RSVP, which was incredible to see. We're going to have Boston coming up. And we have Denver tonight. If any of you guys are in Denver, there's a Denver gathering. We have a really big turnout for that. So a lot of these cities, while they may not be New York and LA, are really growing in terms of building community in your hometown. So it's really, really exciting to see it. I get so happy. One question we have from Deepti is, what's the difference between the 10th House and Female Founder Collective? Which is a great question.
That?
Yeah.
So Female Founder Collective is our holding company and our parent company. It also happens to be a nonprofit. So we do regular grants out to different groups of female founders throughout the year. So you'll always be apprised of those. And we give 10th House members first access to those grant opportunities. But 10th House is the membership platform. So if you do join, and you'll be ushered in ultimately. And I do want to speak to a lot of the questions around the delay before you do come in, because it is frustrating, especially in this day and age of instant gratification, where you sign up for something and you're like, wait, it says I was accepted, but why have I not started this membership? We have a couple of years ago, we actually changed things so that everybody starts at once. Those are those cohorts that we keep referencing, because that way you're not coming to the party alone and like knowing no one or having no idea how to get around. we have found that it's super important for everyone to go through some sort of orientation process so that you do understand how to use the community to your best advantage, so that you're able to know where the forms are if you're fundraising or if you are looking to host a community event in your market, and that you know where the calendar is, so that you do want to participate in these incredible events that are being planned. You know how to actually go and where they are and what they are. So we have everybody joining together also to create a community feel. So you might have it where if you joined earlier in the application process, our application processes are around now 6 to 8 weeks. And so sometimes you might have to wait 8 weeks, which is like, it feels super annoying. We do send a ton of emails that sometimes are missed. And I've actually had this myself. I'm in another community and I still don't know how to get onto the platform. And I've like emailed them 10 times and I'm like, I feel for our community members because I think a lot of them are in the same boat, and they're like, I've sent you like 10 emails, and I'm like, oh, there it is. And so definitely look out for those or search for them in your inbox. But we're trying to be as helpful as possible and communicative as possible on when it'll start, what the activities are that are taking place, the calendar around it, and the process for logging in.
I saw a question here. Kelly, I'd love to hear that. I think with anything, it takes time. And sometimes, Allie and I always have our calendars and a lot of emails. So if you guys want to set up times to talk to us, and I hear from members often, and times just don't align for what they're looking for. They sort of need to figure a few things out, but we're not going anywhere. So if this is something you want to put a pin in and come back at the next cohort, that's fantastic as well. And I want to touch on two questions I saw in here. One, I think it was from, yes, Angela, who's talking about more established founders. I don't know where we are about talking about this publicly yet, but we are working on an experience that is catered more for women who are sort of in the world of doing over about 5 million, because it's a very different experience. So more to come on that. Angela, we hear you. We're on it. We're super excited to share that in the coming months. But yes, something's always brewing. So that's really exciting to share. And Alexandra, it is international. I actually think London, Geneva, and Paris are our three biggest cities overseas. So if any of you are there and want to host, get some gatherings going, I have been in touch with some current 10th house members to do something similar, because I think, it doesn't matter where you are. I think just meeting other founders, and then also able to connect. Mexico City is another big one that's brewing up, which is really exciting. And then I saw one more question. Ali, if you have one, you can jump in.
I see that Christia answered the application process accepted question.
Oh, I found it.
City session. Do you want to answer the one from Gaia?
Yes. So to host a city session, you have to be a current 10th house member. But if you have submitted your application, come send me an email. We can get it on the schedule so that when you are a member, we have it ready to go. Because I do know that there is Portland is another one that's brewing. But I did see a question. I can't really find it right now, but it was a question about someone who, if they are not a CPG founder, should they still join this cohort? And the answer is yes. If you are needing community right now, we are not saying no. Just note that when, if you are a tech founder, for example, you may have a big influx of, the tech cohort, but you will be placed in the necessary space within the community in there, because we already have tons of women in all these other cohorts already. And the CPG is just the first one we are kicking off with. So our doors are always open. But know that like some of the content when you arrive is probably not going to be totally curated to your cohort, but there will always be things for you to participate in and women to connect with.
Yeah, we just want to be super upfront in managing expectations, because there's nothing worse than being like, wait, I thought this was going to be like all about you know, my specific industry, and then you get in and you're like, why are all these people talking about co-packers, and why are they all talking about packaging and things that are totally irrelevant to me. The other thing is that we most likely will have a designated cohort for you. So as Carly mentioned, if you are already in the community, you'll still be able to go and experience that whole process with that cohort. Like you'll join as though you're new, and you'll get to take advantage of all the industry specific events that we plan, and get to be in a specific designated space with them.
Yep. Yep. So current members, we will automatically be dropping you into the places tonight, or end of day today. So nothing for you to do. And then I think there's some certain circumstances where you sort of fall between two industries. And I think joining both of those spaces is relevant to you. But if I do see that you are popping your head into an industry that is not yours, I will politely ask you to leave. But it is fair to, ask questions. If you do have a question to business services, you can post your question there, right? Because those are the women who are going to be able to answer your questions. So if you're a service provider doing some research for a product that one of your clients is working on, feel free to drop that into the consumer product space. But don't float around and try to like win some business, because that's not what it is for. There's designated spaces for you to highlight your specialties, your knowledge in the service provider board, which is an incredible place for women to scour and see who's an accountant, designer, email marketing specialist. And so there's a designated space for you to highlight that. I'm never trying to say, don't be loud about what you do, because we are here to support it. There's just designated places and proper places to do it. So with about 2 minutes left, do we have any additional questions? Yeah, of course, Ryan, I think that's a really fair question. Would we be able to look at designated spaces outside of our own, just to see what people are sharing, i.e. learning from other industries, not a service provider building an app? Absolutely. And again, I'm not trying to put limitations on anything. I think you all have so much knowledge, but yes, definitely. Because I think there's so much magic, again, from what I said earlier, is picking each other's brain, talking about getting insight. When you have this service provider and product founder space that you share, these service providers have a lot of knowledge that the product founder can utilize into their business. And the service provider has a ton of knowledge that they can ask the product-based businesses to take back to their current clients. So there's so much transient information that can be shared between the two of you and all amongst everybody. So absolutely poke around, share, ask questions. I never want to say no to that. But just know that there's like certain places where things should live and because that, and it's designed so that this community can thrive and not get lost in the world of like solicitation, which can happen really easily.
And I maybe this is what you were noting, Carly, but Ryan has a great question. There are general spaces as well for you to be able to connect with every single industry. So
yeah,
is that what you just talked about? And
no, yeah, I think that was just a way smarter, more efficient answer than what it was. For current members too, is the ask a question place is still there. So if anything is more general, that lives. If it's something you want to ask to the wider community, that's where it goes, which is great. All right. Thank you guys so much for taking the time. Yes, Deepti, we do. We don't have financial contribution to help with city sessions, but we actually leverage amazing partners from within the community to help sponsor drinks and other sort of partnerships. We're working with Party Trick to actually put this all in one place for you guys, which is going to be really incredible. But thank you guys so much for being here. Have an amazing weekend. It's Thursday. Yes, I thought it was still Tuesday. Ali and I are available in email. Your follow-up will also be able, our calendars are always available in emails. If you want to schedule some time to talk through it, navigate, current members want to talk through their experience, see how we can help, and potential new members, we are here to support. So thank you guys for taking the time.
thank you all. We know that you're super, super busy. So we appreciate it. And we always love to hear from you directly too, as Carly mentioned.
Have a great weekend. Bye all.